from lockdown in Europe. My name is Romeo Varga. I'm a storyboard artist and an illustrator with Jackie Winter, and I specialize in all things cars. As I'm often asked how I create these artworks of cars with such intricacy and detail, I've decided to show you all of that in a time-lapse video. Rather than show you my process and what brushes and what layers to use, I have decided to narrate the video with a background story as to how I've become the car guy. For this video, I have decided to draw a 1970s Porsche, a classic car, and rather than draw the car and paint it, I have decided to go a little bit deeper and show you these intricacies that I'm speaking of, and show you the engine, the interior, the chassis, the suspension, and everything that comprises the car. Something I'm sure not a lot of people know about, but I do, and this video will show you why. I hope you enjoyed watching the video as much as I've enjoyed creating it, and thank you. As you can see below, the magic starts with a pencil, and I can start with my story. For me, it all started when I was 3 years old, and I still remember I was 4 years old and I've had my very own exhibition at the kindergarten, and I was only young, but I still remember the artworks that were around this little classroom, and they were all my works of cars, and I still remember just a few of them, and they were very, very basic, but back in those days I remember fascinating the adults because of the sense of perspective I've seemed to have, because they were all surprised that I could draw a car from the bird's eye perspective, because it didn't make sense that a 4-year-old knows, or 3-year-old knows what a car looks like from above. But I've always had this, to me it was always like, what's the big deal? It makes perfect sense. That's what it looks like from the side, therefore it must look like that from above. And I'll always remember that. And things just never changed. I'm still amazing people with the way I see things. As you can see, the car doesn't look like anything quite yet, but we're getting there. The greatest influence growing up, I still remember, was my father, his work, and the collection of books and the magazines that he had around the house. I still remember picking up this huge book on cars one time. I was a very, very young age, and for the first time realizing what a car looks like underneath its skin. And for the first time I realized that this thing called engine is moving the car, because I'm sure, like many cars, many children before me actually thought they were little men moving the car underneath the bonnet. And I remember I was fascinated. I was so moved by the whole process of the air mixing with fuel, with the spark creating an explosion that moves the engine. I was hooked. And I pretty much remembered most of my childhood being spent drawing cars, and I did them in technical diagrams, imitating my dad's work, engineering, and greatly influenced by Italian comics, having grown up in Europe. And I've used these styles and pretty much spent my childhood drawing cars in these styles. My teenage years were even more fun because at the end of high school, having finished high school in Germany, I decided I wanted to go to a trade school and become a mechanic. And such was my love for cars. And that was next level. It was the most amazing fun I've had at school, because we spent our days not only learning about intricate parts of cars, but we also were spent our days taking the engines and apart and putting them back together. So each individual part had to come off, put it back together. And I still remember, though, there were the, I think, 1970s or 80s old diesel, Mercedes diesel engines, and that was so much fun. I have learned so much there that today I do all my own work on cars, be that servicing, be it brakes, any engine work, everything that needs to be done, I do it myself. But more importantly, it is that knowledge, that background, that intricate breathing and living of cars that I bring to my storyboard work. So every time I create an animation, every time I create a drawing, everything when it comes to cars, I infuse my background knowledge, all of my experience for the last 37 years that I've been drawing and studying cars and engineering, and everything goes into this artwork and becomes what it is today. After arriving in Australia, I did a bachelor in interior design and a degree in policing. But neither one of those went anywhere because my love for drawing and art was just too great. And the way I honor those two degrees these days is by drawing a lot of architecture work, and a lot of on my technical side comes from the interior design, and with the policing I draw a lot of uniforms and police cars. And it's getting there, but it's not quite populated yet with detail. We'll keep going. Clients are often surprised when they come to me with a job that I'm already aware of the technology that's being advertised with that car. And that's because I spend all of my time researching and learning about new technologies, new features, new safety things that are being implemented with every car. And it's just my favorite pastime, just reading everything there is, the latest tests and so forth. So that really comes through, and it really helps with every job. One of the highlights of last year was an editorial job on the front cover for the Wheels magazine I have right here. And this was very special to me for two reasons. One, I have been a very avid reader of the Wheels magazine for many years. And the other is that I picked this magazine up at the airport on my way to Europe for a holiday, not knowing I would be under lockdown with the only magazine I have in the English language. And I've read this magazine cover to cover many times, greatly enjoyed it. But more importantly, it was a great part. It was very great being part of the team and working with the guys at the Wheels magazine. It was a great pleasure, and it was an amazing opportunity being a part of. Yeah. And here we are bringing the car close to an end. And finally, I hope everyone's enjoyed this video, and I hope it's helped unveil some of the wizardry that is behind of everything that I do. Thank you.